Hello there everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to make these embellished organic wirework chain links, and then they look like this. Now I've just made links here where then turned into a bracelet as this one, but then also you can always use them for other things, so make a nice pair of earrings that look like that, and then I just add a little drop as well, and obviously it would make a nice set, but then the bracelet looks like that, so it has a really nice movement to it because they're separate links but then make a nice whole piece, and it's going to look a little something like that on, so be really nice and elegant, and obviously give completely different looks depending what materials that you use for yours. So that's what they look like. So if you want to learn how to make these links and turn it into a chain as well, then keep watching. So it's these materials here that I'm going to be using. I have two different gauges of regular round silver coated copper wire here. The first one is a 0.8mm. This is going to be the base wire and the structure. And then here we have a 0.4mm, which is the weaving wire we're going to use around the 0.8mm. And then we'll need the beads that we want to add in. These are 4mm rounds, and the ones that I have here are some red quartz gemstone beads, faceted as well, so they're going to give a really nice sparkle. You can also use whatever you want to, and also to match the wire that you're using. And then finally here, to finish off the piece, I'm going to be using a Lost Claw clasp and extended chain to give it a nice finish, and then also jump rings, both to attach to findings but also to actually attach the pieces and links together. You can also use whatever clasp that you want to. So let's get it all together and let's get started. And then we'll need some lengths of wire that we can start working with. First of all, here I have a length of my 0.8mm. Now I'm not really working with specific lengths per link that I'm making, so if you want to make it a chain, what I prefer to do is work with a longer length and then continue to use that same length. So start from the end and then use a bit, and then you'll have still a good length left, and then just continue using that. So it makes it easier because you don't necessarily know how long each link is going to be, but also you have far less wastage this way. But I'm using this, maybe start out with about 50 centimeters. It also really depends on how much you're comfortable to work with. And then as for the weaving wire, so the 0.4mm wire here, it's the same principle again. So I'll just cut a nice decent length that I'm comfortable working with, whether that's 50 centimeters or a meter, that's completely up to you. And then I just start using this when we start the wrapping on the base wire, of course, and just keep using it, because what we're going to have to do as well with these links is keep cutting it off and starting again, and cutting it off and starting again within each link. So you might as well just start with one length, and again you have far less wastage doing it that way as well. So I'm going to start right from one end of my wire all the way at the end there, and then use my bail making pliers and that smallest step on them, and then I just want to make my first little loop, and this is going to be the very end of the link. Now obviously if you don't have these pliers as well, you can always just use round nose pliers. Obviously just kind of pay attention to where you put the pliers compared to the wire, because they taper in size. So I've got my first little loop, almost like a little full circle there, and then that's the end. Like I said, we then need to go straight into the kind of pattern on the link. So there's really no specific way to do this. This is very much organic, and do it as you go and judge it how you feel it looks and how you want it to look. So I'm just going to show you a few things that I like to add in the design. I'm going to put my pliers a bit to the side on the long tail here next to the circle that I just made, and then bring the long tail around. You can see in the opposite direction here, all the way, change position, and then keep changing position of the pliers around, so I can bring the wire all the way around here. So we have a full circle, but I want to bring it even further around, because we then need to make sure that the long tail here is coming in the right direction for the next step design choice that we want to add in. So I'm bringing that out to the other side, because like I said, the first little circle we made is the end of it, but also you can kind of use it as a reference point, as a bit, it's kind of going to be the midpoint. I don't want to make these too wide, so building too far out to the sides. So something a bit like that. Then I'm going to grab my chain nose pliers, because now I want to put in the first little leaf, so just a little leaf shape there to add to the design. And I'm going to place my pliers here right after the little circle that I just made, where I basically doubled the wire over itself. Just get right up next to it. Then the long tail, press against the pliers so you get an angle in there. and something like that. And then we want to get one side of the leaf, so I'm going to bring it back again and make sure I put a curve in. And just take your time, maneuver the wire exactly how you want it to sit. Sharpen up the angle a little bit. And then I'm going to go to the tip of what's going to be the leaf. Place my pliers again on there, and then bend the long tail of the wire against my pliers again to get that tip in. So making another angle. And then sometimes I like to sharpen up that angle by going on each side. It sharpens it up and makes it a little bit more pronounced there at the tip. So I'm going to place the pliers in again and then bring the long tail. I like to kind of hold it a bit away because we need to get the curve on the other side of the leaf, obviously. Bring it in towards the bottom of the leaf to complete it. So until you're happy with the shape, something a bit like that. Then I'm going to go down to the bottom on this long tail to then bend it back again to make it a full complete leaf. So just push your wire against your pliers outward, and you can see I went, the very first circle I did, like I said, is the kind of end of the link. Then I went towards one side, and then from that over towards the other side. So I'm kind of a bit crossing from side to side, building the pattern and the design as I go. And it's all about judging that as you're making it. So that's in the leaf ready there. Then the next step is just really judging what you want here. So I want a bit of a curve after the next step, so I'm going to put in another circle in this place. So I take my bail making pliers, bring it around, and I'm going to do the same basically that I did at the first one right after the beginning circle. So just bring it around all the way, again bringing the wire on top of itself basically, as far as you want it to go. Bring it back upwards here because I don't want any gaps that are too open and too kind of with a space. I'd rather then bring the wire and fill that in a little bit with the design, or we can then add a bead once we start adding that with the weaving wire. So there we go, a bit like that. Coming back over towards the other side again, and then I want to put in a bit more of a curve there. Bring it back around, but not necessarily a full circle, because then I also want to get in where I can maybe make my next leaf. Again, making sure I don't go too far out to the side by referencing back to that circle, the very first one that's at the end. So something a bit like that. And then I'm going to make my next leaf. So I'm just going to put my pliers where I want the base of the leaf to be, so where I want it to start. And then bend the wire against the pliers again to get your angle in. And just change position. And then get your curve on the first side first of all, and bring it a little bit back with the curve there. And then place your pliers at where you want the tip to be, and again bend your wire against it and bring it in, grabbing the wire a bit away. It tends to give it a bit of a nicer, more natural curve. And obviously to complete the leaf, just like I did with the other one, the very bottom you just want to put the angle in there as well on this side, and then there you have a complete leaf. And then you can always adjust things as you go, open things up if you feel like something is too close, or if you need to bring something closer together. Because what I'm also thinking about as I'm making this is, because obviously this is all made with one piece of wire, as you can see, what I want to do, and I'm going to do once I add in my weaving wire and we're adding the beads, is I'm also going to connect a few points here and there. So for instance on this side where we have the circle above and then we have this little curve below it, if they're close enough together like I've done them here, what I'm going to actually do with the weaving wire is just kind of connect them. That adds a little bit more security and stability to the link, because otherwise what you can do is just pull this apart and obviously it will pull out of shape. But if you just make a few connection points here and there, it will add much more security to the piece as well. So So then to fill in the next little space here, just want to bring that angle just how I want it to sit. And then I'm going to take my bail making pliers again. I want to add in another little circle, but this time it's kind of going to be pointing outwards instead of being within the wire, you could say. With the shape, bring it around again. Again, kind of then building up this side a bit where there seems a bit of open space. Just like that. And again, also there you can then see we have connection point from the two circles right above each other there. And then we're slowly getting towards the other end. As you can see, it's building up. Obviously how large or long you want to make them is completely up to you, but I like to try and make them a bit consistent. So as I'm making them as well, obviously I make one, and then as I'm making the others up, I like to compare them to each other a bit as well, just to kind of keep them somewhat consistent. So there we go, moving in towards more of the middle again as well now, because I'm getting towards the other end, so I want to make sure it's not too wide at the end either. And then obviously decide the final design pieces that I want to add in. So bring this around, making another circle. Something a bit like that. Just keep maneuvering your pliers in the position where it's comfortable to hold while you're obviously maneuvering the wire around them. So there we go. Again, you could say there's a connection point there between that leaf and that circle. So just keep thinking about that as well as you're building it. And then what I just want to do is add in the final leaf before I'm then going to pretty much finish this one off, the shape. So I place my pliers again right after the circle, and then bend the tail against it. A nice angle that I want it to have, and then just like the others, get that curve in place on one side of the leaf first of all, and you can always adjust the positioning of the leaf by sharpening the angle or whatever you want it to be, how you want it to sit. Make the tip of the leaf against your pliers here, and then curve on the other side as well. And finish it off. Something a bit like that. And then I'm just going to make a little circle right after the leaf here, just like I basically started out. So I'm going to take my bail making pliers again, using the small one because that's the main one that I've used throughout to keep it nice and consistent, and then just bring the wire all the way around to make a complete circle. And then obviously we just need to cut off the excess wire. So just cut it right where the wire basically meets itself. Just find the right place. Just like that. So basically once you cut it off, the very end of the wire pretty much buds up against itself further back there. So there we go. There we basically have the very first link, the basic shape in place with the base wire of the 0.8mm there. So then we have the link ready here. You can obviously then choose to then complete one link at a time with the weaving wire and the beads, or just make up all your links here in the base shapes and then start with the weaving after. That's completely up to you. But what I'm then going to do is bring in the weaving wire, so the length that we have cut ready. Like I said, just whatever length you're comfortable working with, because we're going to keep having to keep adding new wire anyway. So what I'm going to do is start on one end, and this little circle that we made is going to be the connection point between the links as well. And just kind of put my wire behind it, the weaving wire, and I want to attach it first of all through this circle at the end. So I'm just going to coil this wire around the base wire with a short end here, just like that. And then basically what I want to do is make sure that the wraps here are as close together as possible, so it becomes nice and neat. And can be a little bit fiddly, this weaving part, also because obviously it's a bit of a small link, but just take your time. And what I want to do with this is I want to bring this weaving wire with the coiling all the way around this little circle, right to the very end of the base wire. Obviously there's a little gap there, between the end of the base wire and kind of the further back on itself where it butts up against itself. But you want there to be a little gap so there's space for the weaving wire, because we need to coil further down as well. But I'm attaching this just so it's consistent, and you have this little coil all the way around to the end. So you just do it as close as you can to the end, and then you can obviously cut off the excess of the weaving wire. So just keep coiling here until you've filled in this little circle all the way around, and then we can move on with the longer end of the weaving wire to then fill in the rest, but also start attaching our beads. So now I've filled in the circle there with my little coil of the weaving wire. Then what we're going to do is I'm moving on to then the long length of my weaving wire. So we're going to obviously use that to keep building the rest of it. So what I'm just going to do is keep coiling, because I have a little space of bare base wire that I also want to fill in. I basically want to cover most of the base wire with the weaving wire here by coiling around it or filling in the leaves. So I'm coiling all the way down till I pretty much don't have any space left, because then I run into my very first circle there. So once you run into that, what we're going to do is, it's mainly the circles here really where I want to add my beads. So this is actually a point where I want to add a bead. So the circle here, I'm going to come up through it with my weaving wire, just like that, up through the middle of it. And then I'm going to take one of my beads, add that onto it, and let it drop all the way down, and it's going to sit right on top of it. But what you want to do is, you don't want to let it drop all the way down and then bring your wire further on. You want to make sure to just kind of lift the bead a little bit away, so it's not right against down where the base wire is, but there's about 1 millimeter or 2 of space between it where you can see your weaving wire. So just place it there, and then I hold it and then kind of push it to the side with my finger to basically give it a little kink in the wire. And then I grab hold of it, put my weaving wire down through the circle again, the same one, pull it all the way through, because then what will happen as we're pulling it down, because we added that little kind of kink where we have space in the weaving wire, what you'll find is the side of the bead is what's going to show. Because if you just add your bead, push it all the way down and then bring your wire down, you're going to pretty much see where the hole is and where the wire is coming out from. And I want it to be the side, that's kind of the most obvious part. So just like that, the bead is now in place, and obviously the wire is coming through the circle in the same direction as just going in and out, but the bead stops it from pulling through because the bead is larger than the circle. So just go from the circle, and what you can use as well, the openings in your shape, to kind of, instead of always go to the end and put it through, you can just go more easily like this in between those gaps to help with the weaving. So when you're coiling around, it makes it a bit easier and quicker as well. So now I'm just coiling around the next bit of kind of open base wire that I have till I reach the next point that I either want to add a bead or fill in, say the leaf or something. You can always use pliers here just to push your wraps nice and close together, and then maybe you want to start using the end a bit. It's completely up to you what you feel most comfortable with. So just keep coiling here until, in my case, I then reach the leaf as the next thing. So I now reach that leaf here, all the way to the very bottom of the leaf on that one side that we're coiling on. So to fill this in, what we're going to be using is actually the figure of 8 weave. So going from side to side, from the bottom, working upwards towards the tip. So I'm coming from the one side, and instead of coiling around the same wire there, I'm going to cross over to the other side and just basically do the same, but I'm just coiling around that other side instead. And then I'm coming up from below the leaf and going up through the center of the leaf there, the open space that we have in it, and then coiling around on this other side. And coming around again, so we're wrapping around twice on each side, coming up through again. Now you might find in some cases if you're coming down through the leaf to fill it in, that's completely fine as well. It's the exact same thing whether you're coming up or down through it. And then I'm going to cross over to the other side again. So after wrapping around twice on this other side, the outside you could say, and coming up through the middle, I'm going to go over to the opposite side. So I'm constantly wrapping around twice on one side, coming up through and crossing to the other side and wrapping around twice. And that's basically how you fill in the leaf. Now it's easy enough here when you're wrapping from the bottom of the leaf and upwards, because as you can see the leaf kind of graduate outwards up until a certain point, because then you have the widest point and then it starts to graduate inwards again towards the tip. Now once you get to that point that's the widest, it gets a little bit trickier filling in the rest, because what will happen is when you're kind of filling in a space like this or a shape, your wire will always kind of want to slip towards the narrow point. So obviously that's fine, like I said, that we're wrapping here now. We're coming from the narrow point, but when we're going to come from the middle there, that's the widest point towards the narrow, it'll want to kind of slip towards the tip of the leaf. So just get to that point that's the widest of the leaf, and then I'll just show you how I prefer to handle that to make sure we don't get too many open gaps in the weave here. So I now got to that wider point there, and then I'm going to continue the exact same weave, so that figure of 8 weave, but just being a bit more careful as I'm pulling the wire tight. So when I cross over to the other side and you start wrapping there, that's when the wire would want to come down towards the tip. So to help avoid that, the way that I find is best is by, when I'm coming around to the other side here and you tighten this, is to try and make sure to the side that you're coming from, so the one that I just wrapped before, hold that down with your finger or your nail, or if you have to use pliers, and then hold it down as you're tightening the other side while pushing that down as well. So like that, and because obviously this is quite small, you're using your pliers to then push these wraps down on the opposite side. Really helps as well. And then just make sure both sides are pushed as far down as they'll go before then moving on to the next wrap. So just like that, that's how I then fill in when it's going to a narrow point. So again, keep doing this until you reach more towards the tip. Now there's not that much space left here, so when we get to the tip and we pretty much can't really wrap the figure of 8 weave anymore, what I'm going to do is finish off. This is where we're also going to need to finish off the weaving wire, because it's going to end here at the tip of the leaf, but we just need to fill in the tip of the leaf around the base wire. So just the same principle as everywhere else. So instead of having just the bare base wire showing at the tip, we're going to just coil around it a couple of times so it blends in nicely. So you then ended up on the one side of the leaf here towards the tip, and I feel like I've got no more space left, so all I'm going to do, like I said, is go from this side, just can continue to coil the weaving wire around the base wire, just to make the tip blend in, and just over towards the other side where you're then going to meet up with the weave again. So just do this, and then, like I said, we're going to get rid of the excess of the weaving wire, and then obviously tuck it away, and you can also do that with the first one. And then we'll need to start off a new weaving wire to continue to the next step. And then we need to get rid of the excess weaving wire here. We obviously want to make sure that it blends in. So I'm coming up through the leaf, and all I'm going to do is, basically I've got space for a final wrap, you could say. Well, instead of coming through the leaf with it, I'm just going to bring it towards the back as if it was another wrap, but then I'm going to cut off the excess. So the end of the weaving wire here is going to end just towards going towards the inside of the leaf, as if it was going to wrap around another time. Cut that off. Take my chain nose pliers, because you're going to be able to feel a bit of wire sticking out. And then just make sure to squeeze that in. And I then like to press it in and then just gently roll it a bit in the direction that the wire is going around the base wire. So inwards there, to really make sure to tuck in that end of the weaving wire into that. Nestle right into the leaf itself. It's going to really make it nice and secure and not catch or scratch on anything. So that's how you in general really want to get rid of the weaving wire throughout. Also the first one there, just cut off the excess, tuck it in, and then whenever you get rid of a weaving wire throughout, again just make sure wherever that is to tuck it in so the end of it is kind of hidden away, so it's not going to catch or scratch on anything. So this is now the leaf there filled in. So what I'm going to do is start a new weaving wire and just basically continue filling in the rest of the shape as well. So I take a new length, or the same length that I cut off if I have enough left, and then put it behind here to attach it first of all. Just leave a bit of a tail so you can hold on to that. Again, come through the open space in the shape there to make it a bit easier. And I need to coil around first of all, like I said, to attach it, also to fill the base wire, any bare base wire there till I reach the next point. And in this case I'm then reaching another circle where I want to add in a bead, so I'm going to come up through the circle the exact same way as I did before, like that, And then again, grab another bead, add that onto your wire, put it through there, and the same principle as before, bring it down, but then before leaving it to go all the way down, make sure there's a couple millimeters between, and then just push it to the side so you get that little kink, and then bring your weaving wire down through the circle again, and pull it all the way through, and then as you pull that into place, the bead is going to get pulled on top of the circle with the side facing upwards, just how we want it to be. And then as you can see here as well, I have the two circles next to each other, but from different points, which is one of the places I want it to be a connection point. But I'm not going to connect them here, I'm going to connect them when I come around and fill in this space and come down to the other circle, and then I'll connect the two. The same thing up here, I have a point that I want to be a connection point. I've added in this bead, then all I'm going to do is continue, just like the other times. The next point that I want to get to, coil my weaving wire here around the bare base wire, just like that. And in this case I want to do it all the way up till I reach this point on this side that I want to be a connection point. So when I reach that, I'm then going to show you just how I'm connecting them, really easy, just by kind of the figure of 8 weave. And it's the same thing you do on all the connection points, just like I'm going to show you there. So to then make the connection between the two sections there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue as if I'm wrapping around another time here. So I'm coming from inside the shape, going around it, and then instead of wrapping around again the same way, what I want to do is the figure of 8 technique, just like we used for the leaf, but come up through, which in this case is a circle here that has a bead on it already, but there's still enough space to come up through the circle and basically just underneath the bead there. I want to come up through there because then it's kind of wrapping the two different sections of wire together with a bit of the figure of 8 weave. I'm just going to do it that once there, and then wrap it around down between the two again, and then come up where we're wrapping before connecting them. So just doing that one connection wrap between the two sections, then going back to where I was coiling and continue coiling after that, just like that. And then you just pick it back up, continue coiling to your next point, which in this case then is my next leaf. As you can see, I'm going to be reaching there, fill in that the same way as here, and all you want to do is keep building it like this. So I'll show you how I'm going to add in the beads, how I fill in the leaf there, and then also the connection points. And it's, in my opinion, quite crucial to make those connection points there, because it's made from just one length of base wire, and 0.8 is strong, but it's not as strong as, for instance, 1 mil, but it's nice and malleable, that's why I'm using that. But it can be pulled out of shape if you put enough force into it, or maybe by accident or something. So those connection points are really going to help make it stronger and more sturdy as well, far more durable. So keep filling this in however you want to, with whatever design that you've done, all the way to the other end. And obviously you want to fill in that circle just like we did here. Get rid of all the ends of the tails of your wire, and then once you've done that, you have your link done. So then, for instance, when we then have a few links ready, I'll just got these two here just to show you how to connect them, and that's just simply done by using a jump ring. So I've got a jump ring here, and I'm then going to take my pliers and open it up, just like a regular jump ring would open, more like a door. Instead of, you don't pull them from each other, but just open it by pushing them to the side like that. And I'm then going to take one link there towards the end, obviously that circle on the end, and then take the other one and put that, and I put them opposite, so when I close this up and they then lay out next to each other, they're obviously facing the same direction with the beads upwards on the same side. So that's all you got to pay attention to. Obviously if you've done it wrong, just undo it and then attach it in the opposite way. So the beads sit nicely like that, and then it'll look a little something like that, obviously just with the materials that I'm using here. And then you can just keep connecting them, so you get a really nice little chain with added beads that adds a bit of colour to them as well. And then you can obviously make a bracelet or whatever you want to, or earrings as well would be kind of nice, just maybe one link per earring. So that's how you attach them together, and also attach the clasp at the end when you have the length that you want. So just do that, and then when I've done all the links here, I'm going to show you the final piece. So I now continued making more links here and connecting them together as well until it's turned into the length of a bracelet. And it looks like that. And obviously attached clasp as well. An extender chain. So there we go. So it has nice movement as well because the links that are connected together, but each one is sat together nicely and the design still suits each other. And obviously each one that you're going to make is always going to be slightly different, even if you try and make them alike, because it is more of an organic way of making it. But then, for just to show you here, it'll sit really nicely on your wrist, give a nice design and look there. So obviously I just made this into a bracelet. You can also just use these links for other things. What I also did was just made some simple earrings with them. So I just used one link and then I attached a drop on the other end there for the other circle at the end that we otherwise connect in the bracelet, and I just did a wrapped loop on a head pin and with the same bead there. So nice simple earrings as well. You can obviously make it so they match if you want to have a set, and even work with it as well, make necklace if you want to make a whole length, or if you want to do it maybe so it hangs like this, and then you maybe have, I'll just use one of the earrings here to demonstrate with, from the middle you have one hanging down and maybe a little drop there, and that could be a necklace as well, so that would sit really nicely on the neckline. So you can really do lots of different things with these little links, kind of just making your own chain. So that's what mine looks like here. Obviously it'll look completely different using different materials as well. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and thank you very much for watching. Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to make this cherry blossom beaded Kumihimo bracelet, and it looks like this. So you get your cherry blossoms going all the way around with your little leaves on them, different leaves on each one, and then the flowers on the outside of the bracelet here. So it'll look like this when you're wearing it. So if you want to learn how to make this, then keep watching. So here are the things that we'll need. Now because we're making a round braid, we'll need a round Kumihimo disc for this.